Well, this is the Holy Gator. And
Welcome to the Holy Gator, everybody. Been long talked about, and we're finally here.
we're finally doing this.
It's finally happening. So for those wondering what the Holy Gator that is, podcast with Jordy and myself, where Jordy will talk about his Fighting Irish, and I will talk about mine, Florida Gators. Possibly will expand past football season to like basketball, baseball, all that stuff. But yeah, here's where we are now for football season.
Yeah, and I think I already know what topic you want to kick off with.
I was gonna start with the winning. I was gonna start with y'all with the winning team, but
I thought you wanted to start off. I know
no,
exactly
I mean
what you want to talk about.
a couple of the topics that we got planned for y'all today is obviously Notre Dame's success, them being chances of being in the playoffs or being not relative, but like kind of their odds of being in the playoffs, and newly dropped, brand new, like maybe 40 minutes ago, the Florida Gators firing both their defensive coordinator and their O-line coach. And possibly many more, depending on if any news drops or if we can think of anything else. So, Jordy, let's start it off with your Fighting Irish. They are ranked, 10, I believe?
In the AP, we just bumped up to around 7. And if that's any indicator, we're probably going to move to about 8 in the college bowl rankings.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's pretty exciting to be a Notre Dame fan. Who all do you have left on your schedule? Is there any chance that y'all can still make the playoffs?
There's nobody really big on our schedule because our big games were the streak of USC, North Carolina, and Cincinnati the week before, or 2 weeks before USC. Because now we're rolling against basically nobody at Georgia Tech and then Stanford. Because there's somebody in between that I'm forgetting, but there's a chance we can make it if we win out, but a snowball effect has to happen.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think. Top 3 are obviously Georgia, Alabama. They'll be slated in. But if Alabama, which I believe, this is personally me speaking, Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC championship or vice versa, one of those teams will be out of the playoffs. I fully think if Alabama beats Georgia, Georgia's out of the playoffs. So then you'll have Oregon left, which Oregon could lose. Oregon just recently got back in the top 3, and then I don't remember who number 4 is.
Right now, the bowl rankings are Georgia 1, Bama 2, Michigan State 3, Oregon 4, but Michigan State's going to be knocked
exactly,
out.
And Michigan State lost.
So Ohio State's probably going to be your 4 right now.
So right now, I believe if this is correct, it is Georgia, Cincinnati, Alabama, Oklahoma, Oregon, Ohio State, and Notre Dame.
Those are probably going to be your potential guys to jump in, yes. Michigan's also in there, but that's about it.
Yeah, Michigan is at 9, and Michigan State drops to 8.
The thing about Michigan, though, is they've got Ohio State and Michigan State, and Ohio State and Penn State left, so they could easily be shut off the rankings.
Yes. So because Ohio State still has to play both Michigan State and Michigan, say they lose both of that, obviously that's a big jump for Notre Dame. Even if they lose to just Michigan, that's a drop for Ohio State, and Notre Dame can still squeak in. Oklahoma has been sketchy all year. So even with a record, they still might be like, we don't know. Plus, Oklahoma could still drop a game. Oregon, I don't know who the Ducks play. Yeah, Cincinnati could drop a game. So and again, with looking at the SEC championship with Georgia and Alabama, the loser, in my opinion, doesn't matter if it's Georgia or Alabama, the loser of that game is out of the playoffs. Because you also got to look at the championship games before the playoffs. So, I mean, there still is a good chance Notre Dame could squeak in.
Yeah, and like you said, Oklahoma's been sketchy this year. Oregon Oregon's been very up and down with their play. I don't know what's going on with them. And then Cincinnati's not gonna, as much as they may have a case to get in that top four, they're not going to, because there's one thing that the committee hates ever since 2014, because it's the same ranking, it's the same ranking system and everything. There's one thing they hate. What's that one thing? G5. They're
Mm-hmm.
not going to let Cincy in at all. It doesn't matter. Armageddon could happen. The top four could get nuked. Top five, they're still not getting in. So it just opens up a little bit bigger of a door for us.
Yeah, pretty much. So, hold on, I've lost it. Okay, so yeah, and especially if unless Notre Dame plays Alabama again, this is me assuming Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC championship. Georgia's out of the playoffs. Then you look at, I don't know, we'll say Alabama, Oklahoma, Oregon, Notre Dame, or Ohio State, Notre Dame, or any one of those. Assuming Notre Dame's in there. Unless y'all play Alabama, I think you can win that playoff game and go to the finals. And depending on who the team in the final is, it kind of depends. Because the thing with Georgia is Georgia, yes, they're a good team. They're obviously the number one team for a reason. Their offense is kind of meh. It's that entire defense that carries them.
Yeah, that defense has anchored them all season.
Because right now their QB can't really take a good deep shot. I mean, their running game is good, but if you take out the running game and if you don't make stupid mistakes against their defense, then Georgia's relying then on their QB, who is kind of meh.
Yeah, and not only that, you've got Kyle Hamilton, who eliminates a fourth of the field by himself because the guy will get shot out of a cannon anytime he tries to go downfield.
Oh, absolutely.
He downhill runs no matter which way he's going.
Yeah.
And I mean, any quarterback in general, that's scary, but Georgia, their offense, if you stop that running game, and they don't have somebody like a Kenneth Walker from Michigan State or a Blake Corum over in Michigan. They don't have a star running back. So
because Georgia goes off of a quote unquote four-headed monster, but Georgia, there's not really a premier. I guess you would say Zamir White is running back one, but even then, it's kind of they constantly are to keep their legs fresh, but they're constantly swapping them out.
Yeah, and each one of those running backs on their own isn't anything special, really. And it's not like Notre Dame has a dynamic of Kyron Williams and Chris Tyree with a little bit of true freshman Logan Diggs sprinkled in. That's a two-headed monster, but both of them do something special. Tyree's your kind of shifty guy, and Kyron's a guy that if you give him space will take off for 50, 60 yards. I mean, he did it last week. He's done it the last couple weeks. He did it against North Carolina. He ripped off multiple 50-yard runs. So they've got something special they can do, even though they're a two-headed monster. Georgia doesn't have that, and that limits their running game.
Yeah, and again, big against any team that you play, Kyle Hamilton's just going to be a major contribute. It doesn't matter who you play. That man is going to be the major contribute.
Yeah, and I mean, even we're having a down year in terms of our defense because you just lost guys like Owusu Koromoa who can play almost anywhere, and you lost Okwara, you lost another guy here and there on the D line and linebacking core. They're still, I mean, they're in a down year, and you've got a bunch of high ranking recruits coming in. They're still good. Drew White, Bo Bauer, not any of them are really something super special, something to write home about, but collectively they're like Georgia's running game. Collectively they're good, and the same can be said for the D line. They're anchored by a 6th-year guy who used the exemption year given by the NCAA, and you've got two brothers coming in playing. One's playing a mix of linebacker D line, the other's playing full D line. Isaiah Foskey and the Rover. Just the mobility of certain guys makes that defensive line scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I'm even seeing games that certain teams are playing. Oklahoma's playing Baylor. That'll be tough because Baylor, in my opinion, when they play certain teams like Baylor, it can get tough. The big one that I want everybody to point out is Ohio State. They're playing Purdue. Purdue's already taken out 2 top 3 teams, I believe, this season.
Purdue is a rankings killer. They almost took out Notre Dame. I mean, it was a 1-score game for most of that game.
Yeah, they may not be ranked, but they have taken out so many ranked opponents and top 5, top 3 ranked opponents at that as well. And Georgia, which Tennessee during this year, which is who Georgia's playing. Tennessee this year, especially in the later half, that's a good offense right there. That's going to be a back and forth, I feel like. Or Georgia might be able to completely shut down, but Georgia's going to need their defense to be able to limit Tennessee's offense. Because while Tennessee, I don't know if they have the best defense, but against Georgia's QB, against against Stetson Bennett, who Florida was able to get 2 interceptions on, Florida was able to get 3 turnovers against the Dogs, then I don't know. Hendon Hooker has looked very good. Dude's got a cannon for the arm and he's got accuracy. So I don't know if Tennessee will upset the Bulldogs, but I think Tennessee can handle Georgia. That'll be a close, good game. Alabama, they're playing New Mexico State. Next, move on, whatever. Cincinnati's playing South Florida. Move on. And then Oregon's playing Washington State.
Yeah, that's not going to be a competition. They just fired their head coach like 3 weeks ago because of a dispute over vaccination status. So they're not going to
I remember. Yeah, and he's wanting to sue, that makes sense.
He's trying to sue, and he's putting in an appeal. It's a whole legal situation now.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't blame him. Michigan, Penn State, could be something. I know a couple of people are going to watch that.
That's in Happy Valley. That's the only thing that I think should really worry Michigan fans. That and Blake Corum wore a boot last game. Now, I think it was just precautionary, but his injury is going to be something to keep an eye on, even if it's minor, like I'm hearing. But they still got a 2-headed monster. But they go through mostly Corum. That's most of their offense because he's a receiving back as much as he is a running back, and he catches a lot of their passes because Cade McNamara isn't the greatest deep ball thrower because he's not accurate.
Yeah,
he's not accurate. No matter where he's thrown, he's never consistent with his accuracy. So they always got to be giving the ball to guys like Corum. So that game's going to depend on, is he 100%?
Yeah, and that's also just going to depend on which Penn State shows up because I feel like Penn State's been very up and down this year.
A lot of teams have been like that this year. That's been USC all year.
Yeah. Fair. Yeah.
This year, I compared a lot to 2007 because this is a year where a lot of upsets and everything has happened, and it's gotten to the point where I'm like, at this point, anything's possible because that's what 2007 was like. I mean, you had App State come out of the gates and knock off number 3 Michigan. Then it was just chaos. I think that was the year that what was it? UCF came out of nowhere and almost got into the BCS, or at least got high. So this is another one of those years. So anything could happen.
Yeah, definitely. And I've seen a lot of people compare this year to 2007, at least early on.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I mean, those are pretty much going to be your schedules, and and Notre Dame plays Virginia. Okay. I mean, yeah, that'll be a win. But I don't know. If I'm a Notre Dame fan, I'm watching that Ohio State game. Especially with how Purdue is doing. I really do think Purdue can pull that one off.
Yeah, I mean, they pulled it off against Michigan State, and the key to that game was shutting down Kenneth Walker, which Michigan couldn't do, and they've got a decent defense. So I think Ohio State's going to struggle because they've been very up and down this year. Because they'll show up against the good teams, but sometimes they won't show up against the bad teams too.
Yeah, and Ohio State, even against Nebraska, I mean, it was a close game. I know the final score said 26-17, but I mean, it was a close game.
Yeah, it was very close.
Ohio State definitely has not been somebody to look at and go, oh, that's a dominant team. Ohio State's been like, oof, that's a it's like any team can be in a comp. You look at a team like Purdue, and it's just like, I don't know, they could get away with it.
Yeah, and Ohio State's done what Clemson's done this year, which is a nosedive, but to a lesser scale. So that's just opened up the door for anybody else to step up and go, this is my spot now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, do you want to get on to Florida now and either their game with South Carolina or the firing of their defensive coordinator?
So, yeah, I would like to start off saying game against Florida, complete and utter embarrassment. Worst loss. It was 40-17, the worst loss in school history. We are on a 4-5 record. I want it to be known, to get into a bowl game, you have to have 6 wins. We might be lucky to get that. Our remaining games are Samford, Missouri, and Florida State. And I genuinely don't even know if we could win those games. I think we'll... I don't even want to say I think we'll beat Samford. I'm pretty sure we will. I think everybody and their mother thinks we will, but at this point, I don't know.
Hey, Stanford has... I've said it all
Not
season.
Stanford, Samford.
Oh, Samford. Yeah, that... They could walk into... That could be a trap game.
Every game has been a trap game. And honestly, even with our defensive coordinator now finally fired, I still think our defense will perform even better. I mean, you look at Grantham's defensive scheme was bend, don't break, but instead of bend, don't break, it was bend and break. There was no stopping it. It was always... It was never... He couldn't do anything with third down. And just... His covers were not good. He did not get the players prepared. The players were not prepared. The players can't tackle. And while some people are thinking, well, that's on the players. No, that's on the coaching. That's on the coaching, right? If you do not get your players prepared and if you do not teach your players how to tackle, that's on you. That is on the coaching. And Grantham has been, I remember, I think it was 2018 offseason when we first hired Dan Mullen, and we were looking good. We only had 2 losses. I know one was against Georgia. I don't remember what the other one was. But we had 2 losses and things were looking good. Our defense looked good, our offense looked good, and we were thinking everything looked good. There were reports saying the Bengals were wanting to bring Grantham on. This was before they hired Zach Taylor. That they were wanting to bring Grantham onto the coaching staff. Everybody in Florida prayed that never happened. And it didn't. Grantham was like, nope, I'm staying with Florida, blah, 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 blah. We all praised that.
Now you wish you left.
And then after that report came out, that's when he was slowly on the decline. Like, he was slowly declining that year and then just took a major drop-off. Ever since, like, against... See, that was 2 years ago. So last year, we all saw Florida had top offense, very top offense. You had Kyle Trask, Kadarius Toney, Trevon Grimes, Kyle Pitts. You had and Kyle Trask throwing the ball. You had a very great offense. You had a terrible defense. It literally came to the point where most games it was the offense had to score on every drive.
Yeah, but you were also an unthrown shoe away from everything.
Well, that's because Marco Wilson's a dumbass. And that's also coaching. That's also coaching. The fact that, and listen, I get he was technically a quote unquote kid. I don't care. If I'm that coach, I'm grabbing him by the helmet and I'm going, what the fuck are you thinking? You're going to get flack on this for every moment of your life, and you have nobody to blame but yourself. You have nobody to blame for yourself but that. So if the Florida fans are hating at you, it's because you throw a shoe. Who throws a shoe?
Yeah,
Who you don't?
you don't throw a shoe in crunch time when you're trying to stop them in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Should have never happened. I mean, we deserved to lose that game because after that we just went on a straight. We just started losing, and then against Oklahoma in the bowl game, I get most of our offense was like, we're going to declare for the draft, so we're going to take off this bowl game to prepare for the draft, which in my personal opinion is stupid. In my personal opinion, that's your scholarship being revoked right there. That's your scholarship being revoked. We gave you this opportunity. That's fine that you don't want to be in your senior year. We're cool with that, but you're going to finish this bowl game, damn it. You're finishing this bowl game. Because just in my personal opinion, one, it's selfish. Two, I feel like the school has every right to revoke your scholarship.
Yeah, especially when it's like, I mean, at the end of the year, you can go, oh, yeah, I'm going to the draft, blah, blah, blah. And you can say it then, but not during the season. I mean,
yeah, not during your final
school,
game, not during your bowl game.
Yeah, the school gave you said opportunity. You better play it out for your team and your fans, your brothers. You've got to do that.
Exactly.
It's respect to the game and respect to the people you play against and alongside, not just, oh, I'm going to drop everything for the draft.
And especially for the people that, like the fans that buy the tickets, that use their hard-earned money and drive miles to get to y'all.
Yeah, people bought those tickets. Who knows how far ahead people bought those tickets to come see you, and then it's like, oh yeah, I don't want to play today. That makes sense.
Exactly, and that's why there's always one quote which I live by, and it's by Kobe. And it was, I believe he was talking to his wife, and his wife was like, why do you never, rest, especially when you're injured? And his response was, there are fans out there that work countless hours just to get tickets and then have to drive hours just to get here to watch me. Why should I slack off when why should I slack off when they worked so hard to get money to buy tickets to come see me? I'm not going to do that to the fans. Or it's something along those lines. But that's a reason why he's the Black Mamba, because that is the Mamba mentality right there. You're always working, one, for yourself, but two, you got to work for other people. Because I mean, especially when it comes to football. Because if anything, yes, you can get an injury and that sets back the draft and all that. But it can also raise your draft stock, especially if you are a guy like Trevon Grimes. That raises your draft stock right there. If you're a guy like Kadarius Toney, that raises your draft stock right there. And plus, this school, this coach, this team, it gave you everything. You are here because of the school. So you owe this to the players. You owe this to the fan base. You owe that to your family, your brothers.
Yeah, and Notre Dame, they've got a lot of the players go by the brotherhood because that's what they are, is a brotherhood. And
yeah,
that describes perfectly what football is. I mean, you're all brothers at the end of the day, whether you want to admit it or not. I mean, it doesn't matter if you transfer it out, you transfer it in, whatever. You're still part of that team. And they're going to treat you like family. If you treat them like family, you give them that respect because they play the game just like you. And at the end of the day, you're all trying to get to the same place. There's not enough spots for everybody, but you're all trying to get to the same place. And you've got to have a certain respect for it. And that's why football breeds such camaraderie and everything, because at the end of the day, you're all trying to go to the same place.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we all praise Kyle Hamilton, but if Kyle Hamilton was like, nah, I'm not going to play the bowl game, or I'm not going to play in the playoffs, everybody would hate that man immediately.
Yeah, and
because if I'm a scout and if I'm looking at a player that's like, I want to prepare for the draft, it's like, I get that you want to prepare for the draft, but you go play this final game, because that just shows me that you want to not care about yourself more, because you should always care for yourself. But that just shows me a little bit of selfishness, especially with a team sport like football. No, you go play that final game, even if you get injured. your reputation will still, like, if Kyle Pitts broke or like twisted his ankle or something, if he played that game, it's Kyle. Everybody knows what Kyle Pitts does. Everybody knows what Kyle Pitts has done. Kyle Pitts still probably would have been a top 5, even if his ankle. Plus, it's his ankle. He'll be fine for the combine, and I get that you want to avoid injury and all that, but I mean, I don't know. You just, in my opinion, you just gotta play.
Yeah, and I get that anything can happen and somebody could destroy their knee or something, but the chances of that happening are low. And year after year, the science and everything behind rehabbing from injuries and helping players recover and everything gets better and better. So at the end of the day, the excuses are getting lower and lower for, oh, I don't want to play because of injury. Because unless you get hit, unless you destroy your ACL or MCL or something like that, you're probably going to be fine. And even then, like, look at what's his name? Who went to Tennessee? The cornerback Farley. He injured his leg. I don't remember exactly what. No, it wasn't his leg. It was his back. Something like that.
No,
But
I think it was his leg.
it was something like that, and he had to have a procedure to get something put in his leg or his back or whatever. I don't remember, but he had to have a procedure, and his stock dropped enough where he went from top 2 or 3 corner to early first, late first, early second. I was like, at the end of the day, he's still a late first, early second, and that's something to be proud of as a DB. I don't think anybody should take that away from him because,
Plus, I'm pretty sure he just got a pick 6, or at least a pick.
yeah, he's doing good so far coming off that injury, and everyone was like, oh, well, we don't know if he could return the same. I'm like, at the end of the day, I don't care if the dude, even if he doesn't come back the same, plays with a heart and tries to get himself back there as much as he can. I take that guy any day over a guy with all talent but won't do anything. Jamarcus Russell. But there's examples everywhere of guys wasting talent because they're lazy. And then you look at guys that like the backup running back Johnson, who just landed in Cleveland and had that big game.
Oh yeah, Dearness Johnson.
Yeah, he was sending out emails to the AAF trying to get on a team back when that started up. Now he's on an NFL roster. That's the definition of a guy that pushed, because he had nothing to lose and everything to gain. And what did he do? He pushed himself to his limits and he got somewhere.
I mean, let's look at what Josh Allen did, emailing hundreds of coaches and got one response.
Like, I'd take that guy over a guy that's lazy, and I'd take that any day.
Oh yeah, 100% without a doubt. I feel like we got so off topic. I forgot what we were on.
We were talking about Florida.
Yeah, I know. Well, I knew we were talking about Florida, but I completely. Oh, right. It went with the Oklahoma Bowl because it was talking about even though the offense wasn't there, the defense was still bad. But yeah, I mean, defense for Todd Grantham going way back when in the podcast. But yeah, the defense was just bad. His scheme was bad. Again, just players were not prepared, and the players just had no heart. I mean, they had no heart. You look at LSU, who it's confirmed, Coach O will not be there anymore. That team has heart. That team is playing their heart. That team was playing their heart out against Alabama. And you look at Florida, and there was just nothing. It was nothing. And we weren't even missing like any of our defensive players, I don't think, or any players. But I mean, it just was bad. If you saw me on Twitter last night, very upset.
Yeah.
But yeah, news dropped. He and the O-line coach will be fired. Now, while that makes me super happy because I think defense will automatically be so much better. The O-line was bad this year. The O-line was horrendous this year. While they were okay, they weren't not horrendous, but penalty-wise, they were pretty bad. They were pretty bad. Unless they were just awful in the South Carolina game. I don't know. I went up after the first quarter. But I mean, it just penalty-wise, that's what cost us the Kentucky game was we had like 12 false starts. We had 12 of them. It was bad. It was not good. It was not pretty. And And one thing that's interesting is Mullen's the type of guy that was like, we all thought that he wasn't going to fire Grantham. The only way we were going to get rid of Grantham is if we had to fire Mullen, because Mullen is just attached. But I don't know if Scott Strickland just said, nope, sorry, you're fired to Grantham. But also another person, the O-line coach, Hevesy, I mean, he's coached with Mullen for 2 decades. He was on the staff when Urban Meyer was on the staff. Or, sorry, when Urban Meyer was on the head coach. So, I don't know. I'm hoping for defensive coordinator. I'll go ahead and just give that out now. For defensive coordinator, I'm bringing back Will Muschamp. I know Will Muschamp was offensive. Will Muschamp was a head coach for us a long time ago. But it's kind of Coach O, it's kind of the same thing. They're not good. They weren't the best head coaches, especially Will Muschamp. But they're damn good defensive coordinators, and they're good at recruiting. And that is now the biggest problem. Now that Grantham is gone, the biggest problem is Dan Mullen and recruiting.
Yeah, especially with the quote of, we only recruit in the off season.
And then he tried to go back and save it. And while what he said might have been true, you don't backpedal on that. You just don't. There have been too many guys that have had Florida in their top 3, or guys even in state of Florida that don't pick Florida or have had Florida and decommitted. We had, I think, Julius Humphrey, I think. It was either a corner or a wide receiver. I think it was a wide receiver. I think it was Isaiah Bond. And he was like the fastest. We're talking like Tyreek Hill speed. And he had really good hands. Was committed to Florida for a long time. And he decommitted. He's gone now. So I mean, we've lost out on too many recruits, and this is what you're going to get when you don't recruit. This year right now, what we're looking at is what you get when we don't recruit.
Yeah, and that's definitely going to be a problem, because especially if that's true, that you're going to struggle with recruiting, especially if your bulk comes in the off season, because the big key to Notre Dame's recruiting this year was, you've got Marcus Freeman coming in from Cincinnati. Tommy Rees is going into his second year as the offensive coordinator, and we'll see how recruiting goes this year. Well, with the income of Marcus Freeman, and he's been doing a lot of recruiting visits and everything, and he's been around. You've seen the commitment of guys like Jalen Sneed, who just got bumped up to 5-star linebacker last week by Rivals, and there's just been a constant flow of defensive prospects, D-line commits, linebacker commits, defensive backs, 4 5-star guys. There's been a couple 5-stars over Brian Kelly's tenure, total, like less than a handful. We have 3 in the next 2 years. The recruiting is a big part of bringing guys in. I say that Notre Dame, I feel, is a recruiting school. Kyle Hamilton was never a 5-star guy. Ian Book was a 3-star. Owusu Koromoa was a 3-star. Those guys developed. Our missing link was recruiting. Recruiting is getting better. So it definitely helps, especially if you're a developmental school. If you can just get that little edge in recruiting, that could be all you need to catch up to the better teams. And with Florida, I think they definitely got to step it up, because now they're starting to lose their edge a little bit, and they're in the SEC. That whole conference is competitive. Everyone calls it the best conference in college football for a reason. I mean, a lot of those teams are good, and at the end of the day, those inter-conference games are fights alone, not let alone rivalry games, and you're gonna fight. You're gonna fight, and if you lose your spot to another team, especially another conference team, you're gonna have to fight to get it back. And recruiting is a big part of that.
Yeah, and even in college football alone, one loss is hard, yes, but if it's a loss in the SEC, and if you're an SEC team, it's damn hard to get back into like playoff conversations, unless you're Alabama. But like, I mean, it's just it is definitely really difficult. And like you said, I mean, it's the SEC. It's one of the most regarded because it's really competitive. It is very competitive. I mean, you've got Texas and Oklahoma wanting to come here, which I don't think they should. I think they'll be in for a rude awakening. But I mean, yeah, it's just, I don't know. I don't know. I can't even formulate words right now. But yeah, I mean, for the new defensive coordinator, I would honestly go with, again, either Will Muschamp or Coach O. Because I think if you got to look at the defensive coordinator, you got to look at recruiting. And Dan Mullen, I don't even think he has an offensive coordinator right now. I think when Brian Johnson left to go to the Eagles, I don't think he never brought back an OC. He never did. He brought in a QB coach, but he didn't bring in an OC. I think the OC was actually the assistant OC was the OC, which was Hevesy, who we just fired. So I think you got to bring in an OC as well, especially if Mullen wants to save his job. Because Mullen's job's still probably going to be in question this offseason. It may not even be a next year. It might be a full restaff, which I hate to admit it, but this is Mullen's fourth year. We got rid of McElwain on his fourth year after he brought us to a losing season, which is what we have now. I believe it was, I think we were 4-8, and we're 4-5 right now. So I don't know if history could be repeating itself, but, and I mean, even after Grantham got fired, you see some of the recruits that are committed to Florida. They even react, and they're not even like, oh, I'm upset or whatever. One's saying this is interesting, the other is doing like a little monkey hiding face like this, like, ooh, this is going to be fun, this is going to be interesting. So even then, the recruits probably didn't even like Grantham. I don't even think Grantham being fired will affect recruits. If anything, I think it might help us, especially if you
definitely help.
Yeah, because I don't know when we can start bringing in, or not bringing in, but start doing interviews. But I assume we can start doing Zoom meets.
You're at least going to do a lot of looking around and digging and trying to figure out which candidates would fit for an interview.
Because I feel like even
you'd be doing that before you fired him.
Yeah, because I feel like even what's its face? I feel like even while the season's going on, because I know the NFL does that. Playoff teams will be doing Zoom meets or whatever with teams that have fired their coaches and all that. So I think you can probably talk to Orgeron or Will Muschamp and be like, listen, we want to bring you on, bring you back, and blah, 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 blah. Because while Orgeron, it's kind of funny, Orgeron has only been a head coach and a defensive lineman coach. That's all he's ever done. So it'll be interesting to see if he's going to be a defensive coordinator. Because I think Coach O will have no problem getting a new job.
Yeah, he'll definitely have no problem. Worst comes to worst, he lands with an FCS or a low-tier FBS.
Yeah. But I don't know. I really would look back at Will Muschamp though as defensive coordinator, and I'm gonna bring back another Florida guy for offensive coordinator. I'm gonna look at Mike White, or not Mike White. Sorry, Charlie. I think it was Charlie Strong. Mike White's our basketball coach. He also needs to go. Yeah, Charlie Strong, assistant. Wait, no. No, Charlie Strong's on the Jaguars. Although the Jaguars, linebacker coach. I mean, the Jaguars got a good linebacker coach. Wouldn't mind that as my defensive coordinator.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, they could try to poach a guy here or there from the NFL.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt they're looking into coaches, because I heard rumblings here and there about Michigan thought briefly about firing Harbaugh before the season, and they looked into a couple guys here and there. and they didn't fire him, but colleges will look into it because at the end of the day, it's about the best for the program, and they're going to want to make sure that there's somebody out there they like before they're like, all right, bye bye.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the thing is with college, the not the main difference, but one of the main difference between college and NFL is the recruits. Because with the NFL, it's all drafting, but with recruiting, it's you go, you meet these kids, you meet their family, blah blah blah. You do photo shoots. You have to impress them because they, unlike the NFL draft, actually has a choice of where they can go. So you've got to impress them. So you got to have those coaches that can appeal to the kids, that can make this program exciting, that can promise these kids and provide actual what's its face? And provide actual talent to the football team.
Yeah. And I mean, a big thing I was hearing about over the last couple of weeks was for Notre Dame, they were bringing kids on top of Touchdown Jesus, which is a big mural near the middle of the campus, and you can see it from the stadium and everything. And they brought some recruits on top of it. Not a lot of people have been on top of there. Not even players or coaches really have been on top of there. And that's just another way of shooting a recruiting pitch to some of the recruits and going, hey, you can come here with this, because that all it is fighting other schools for a guy to come play for you. And even then, he's not guaranteed because of the transfer portal and the new rules that got put in this year.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, you're just fighting to say, oh, we give you the best opportunity and we can give you this, this, and that. So bringing in a new guy, that's something you definitely have to look into.
Yeah, no, it definitely, and that's also another thing, tradition as well. We Gators, I know they have the Gator walk, all that. Every time they get off the bus, but I mean, tradition helps, yes, but again, you gotta you gotta appeal to the kids, you gotta appeal to the family. Because I know there was one recruit we lost because his dad was pissed. His dad pulled an OBJ and said, "This ain't a good program. You're not going here, son." And it's just you gotta appeal to everybody.
Yeah, you've got to show that it's worthwhile to everybody, not even just the recruit.
Yeah. Like, I mean, if you've got it, which I know, the recruiting I truly feel has been because of not even Mullen, because there are times Mullen will take like a private jet and fly to the kids. There are times that they'll do all that. I'm really hoping the recruiting is just the assistant coaches like Grantham and all of that. But man, something's got to change, and Mullen's got to figure out what it is. And Mullen has to look at who's got good talent, but who's also really good at recruiting. And I think you got to look at Orgeron and Muschamp.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you gotta if you can, you've got to find the best of both worlds, because you can have one or the other, but it's going to hurt you. If you can find someone who may not be as good at one or the other, but can do kind of both, that's a win-win at the end of the day, and it's going to bring you more success than if you had somebody who was just a master recruiter or a master coach. Urban Meyer, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, and even if you're not the best at recruiting, as long as you have some appeal to people wanting to cut, because people wanted to play for Orgeron, even though there were reports saying like, oh, the players did not want to play. I'm calling bullshit on that. You watch LSU play, they're playing with heart. It doesn't matter. The Orgeron still has heart. Or that entire team still has heart. So I mean, even if you have little recruiting experience, showing that the defense is good because the recruits are also going to want to win. The recruits are going to look at teams and be like, am I going to win? Am I going to have a good chance at chasing a ring or being an effective player? If the defensive coordinator sucks, every defensive player is going to be like, I don't want to play for him. He sucks. I'm going to suck under his defensive scheme. All that, blah, 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 blah. So even if the recruiting isn't the best, you got to look at, or you got to have like a good scheme and show, like, just show, hey, the defense is good. We can plug you in here and you will be able to play. You will have opportunity and you will be good. And don't take my word for it. Look up the tape. Look at how the defense has performed. The kid's going to look at it and go, yeah, the defense has performed. If I'm like a linebacker, I'm going to look at the kid and I'm going to look at the tape and be like, well, their linebackers are weak, but if they plug me in there in this defensive scheme, I'll be good in it. I can make I can make a big difference for the linebacking group.
Yeah, and there's a lot of factors when it comes into recruiting. There's not just one thing that can really bring in a recruit. And it'll change from recruit to recruit. Some may want a place where it balances the student and the athlete, and it's not just one above the other. Others may just want to play. Others may really want an academics, or may want the academics. And there's a lot of in between with that. Some may want to play with a great or a good group of receivers. Some may want to play at a place where it just gives them the best chance to be a very good player. Like if you go to a smaller team like a Vanderbilt or a Syracuse or somebody like that who's still a good FBS team at times, but will give you a good chance to shine. That there's so much that goes into recruiting, and there's never the same person twice with the same interests. So it's always just a sense of luck when it comes down to it at the end of the day too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's gonna be an interesting offseason. There's gonna be a lot of questions for Florida while the playoffs are going on. And not even while the playoffs are going on. Now there's gonna be a lot of questions for Florida. But I mean I wanna say Florida's trending in the right direction, firing Todd Grantham. Because I mean that is a huge help. Because I really did not think we were going to fire him. I figured he was still going to be on this team, and again, like I mentioned earlier, I thought we were going to have to fire Mullen in order to get rid of Grantham. So I'm glad to see at least people are firing. I don't know if Mullen will be next. I don't know what Mullen's got in store. At this point, it's just a lot of guessing and hoping so and so is the OC and OC, or DC and OC. And we got to also find a new offensive line coach. So, and then plus, I didn't even think about this. When you bring on your defensive coordinator, you got to look at who he's going to want to bring on. So that the entire defensive coaching staff for Florida could and quite possibly get changed. So it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, firing coaches, it automatically opens up the what ifs and the questions and for the guesses. And at the end of the day, nobody's going to know till something happens. So there's going to be a lot of guessing and waiting and hoping. But at the end of the day, they may actually be taking the right steps forward to be back to an SEC powerhouse, hopefully. And I mean, yes, you've seen a little bit of a rise of Georgia this year and a little bit of a fall of Bama. Bama looks a little bit more human this year. So does Ohio State. Clemson actually fell out of the top 25. So I think the stuff has started to open up a little bit more. If this continues, it just gives Florida more of a chance, because if the gap continues to close between those top few teams, that makes it better for not only Florida, but Notre Dame and a lot of other colleges that are at the level where it's like we can barely make it, and we just want an easier. We just need a little bit of an easier chance, and we can probably knock a team down here and there.
Yeah. And yeah. Every good football team has that drive, and I truly think Alabama struggle as much as I. No, never mind. I was going to say as much as I don't want to dog on the guy, but I really don't care. Bill O'Brien is not. I don't think Bill O'Brien stays next year because Bill O'Brien is Alabama's offensive coordinator, I believe.
There's a quote that I love that was made by another YouTuber, and it is Bill O'Brien is a hack. He is. He's not a great GM. He's not a great coach. He struggles at anything he touches. It's like a gardener who kills everything they try to grow. He's the same way. Anything he touches dies. So Bama's starting to do the same thing. Although they're also having a little bit of their struggles. So let's hope it continues, and let's hope they keep Bill O'Brien as long as possible, and this continues.
Well, I wouldn't mind them beating Georgia.
That's true. One last hurrah.
Yeah, because I need it.
Then they're going to send off 12 guys in the draft, 8 of which we don't even know, who are probably like fourth stringers and special teamers. They'll get picked in the first round because they're from Bama.
Yeah. It's going to be like Jordan Battle and... Actually, I really can't. John Mechie, the third. Those are really the only two that I could see
going in the first. There's not many big names this year that are coming out of Bama that are going in the first.
No, it's all... I don't even want to say it's all Georgia. I mean, you got Nakobe Dean, obviously. And you got Jordan Davis. I mean, anybody from that defense, obviously. But their offense, not so much.
This year just seems like a weaker draft class year compared to the last couple. I don't know what it is.
It's a lot of small names.
That's true.
Like every school's getting in because you have Florida still. You got like Kyrie Long. You got Oregon with Thibodeau. You got the quarterbacks like Willis and Corral and all those guys.
And you've got
it's a very heavy running
coming
back
from
class.
Cincinnati.
Yeah, it's a very heavy running back class though.
Very heavy. You've got guys like Haskins from Michigan coming out. Spiller from A&M.
Spiller, the guy from Texas, I can't remember his name.
Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, you got Bijan Robinson. You got Kenneth Walker.
Does Walker have another year?
I don't know, but that man's 27, so he probably does not need another year.
He definitely doesn't.
I feel like this is the year that he's like, yep, all right, my name's out there, we're good.
That kid's putting himself in place for a Heisman.
Yeah. He's like, I'm in the Heisman conversations now. Y'all know me.
They've already started chanting it in Michigan State. They've already started calling for it. So.
Oh, yeah.
This is the first good running back they've had in years.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, this is just a class of a lot of guys that aren't really mainstream, that not a lot of people will know about. Even guys like Kenny Pickett, who's a sixth-year guy over in Pittsburgh. He's not really recognized as much because a lot of people have him going like the 5th, 6th, maybe even 7th. I'm like, whoa, this guy's pulling Pitt out of nowhere and getting them ranked. And
isn't he also in Heisman conversations?
I've heard his name brought up here and there. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've as much as I don't trust a QB with the name of Pick in it. But I mean, yeah. So it's definitely a weird class. It's definitely a weird draft class.
Yeah, especially when you consider the fact that there's guys that are projected in the top 30, 32 that aren't even big school guys, like Ahmad Gardner. I mean, you've got the guard from NC State. I still can never pronounce his name. I mean, you've got Rian from UCLA, the tackle.
You got a lot of edge rushers.
Yeah, this is definitely a stacked defensive line class.
This is just a stacked defensive class in general.
Yeah. Guys like Kyle Hamilton, Ahmad Gardner,
Elam
Stingley, Thibodeau, dare I say Battle. There's a lot of good guys on that defensive side. And this is a decently strong offensive line class, too.
Yeah. Wait, I think that's probably why there's a lot of or the defensive class is so weird because you look at guys like the O line and all that, and you go, they're not the biggest names, obviously, but it's also because it's really hard to not hard to study film of the O line, but it's more or less weird, I guess, watching film for O line. So it's kind of like, okay, we got this person, he plays O line, he's good, but it's also like it's really hard to tell because when you're watching the game in real life, in real time, O line's the last thing you look at when you're watching a play develop. You're looking at the quarterback, the running back stepping up. Maybe if there's a if an O lineman, like when Jordan Mailata pancaked that dude, that's an O line play everybody saw. But when it's just normal pass, you're looking to see, okay, did the pocket collapse or not? No? Okay.
Yeah, and another thing that takes your eye off is if you've got someone who's a blocking tight end who loves to go out and make those big blocks, like a Tommy Tremble,
Mm-hmm.
who he'd love to go out and make contact. Guys like Chase Claypool who love contact. He's even a receiver who has almost the body of a tight end. If you've got those guys, those even take the eyes away because you'll see them in open space ready for a block and go, and against the DB and go, that dude's going to get destroyed.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of eyes away from the O line. And unless you're a dedicated film study guy, like you know what you're looking at and you know what you're looking for, it's hard to kind of look at the O line and go, okay, this guy's good at this and blah, blah, blah. It's very hard, especially in real time. But
Yeah.
not only that, they don't get their names called very much, which is a good thing because if your name's not getting called, you're doing everything right. If your
Yeah,
name's getting
absolutely.
called, it's because you're letting up sacks or you're getting destroyed. That's the other thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I don't know. It's a weird class, and it's a weird college football season in general. Because I mean, people definitely did think Notre Dame, because Notre Dame's always involved. Notre Dame's always going to be involved in playoff talks or in top 10 talks or whatever. And then Florida, it went from SEC championship to this. But are they trending in the right direction by firing Grantham? Or do they also need to fire Mullen? There's just a lot of questions for, I feel like, both of our teams. I feel like just for college football in general, there's a lot of questions.
And not only that, a lot of people don't like Notre Dame from the outside just based on the fact that Notre Dame just carries a little bit of a reputation. They carry some good reputation with them, but a little bit of a bad one too on a certain side. And it's just some people hate it's either you love them or you hate them. There's really not many people who are in between. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that don't want to sin because we've run into Bama most of the time. And I'm like, dude, if you put anybody else in 2018, 2020, or 2012, which we almost won that game in 2012, it wasn't for a 2-point conversion attempt that failed. Who else is going to go in and compete with Bama? We were the best team to go in, and we got smothered in 2018 and 2020. And even though that I said coming into the year that this might be an in-between year because you've got a lot of 5 and 4-star guys coming in the future, and you're trying to restack up because multiple receivers have transferred out. We're down to 6 scholarship receivers and 3 scholarship tight ends right now.
Yeah. In fact, I think you even today got a 4-star linebacker in state.
Yeah, that or I did hear something about that. So
some in-state linebacker committed to y'all.
Yeah, we're making a big push in terms of defense because we need it. We're losing, I want to say, 3 or 4 linebackers. We're losing 1 or 2 receivers when we're already low. We're losing maybe an old lineman or 2, actually 2, plus a transfer in that is going to be gone after this year. So and we're losing a couple secondary pieces. So we got to continue to load up because you want to continue to compete with the guys like Bama, and you got to do nothing but reload. So I'm so glad Freeman came in because he's been stacking up with the recruiting and he's been pulling 4 stars out of a hat like a rabbit. Like he's pulled more 4 stars in like the last couple months than I've seen in a while, and that's surprising.
Yeah. I bit my tongue. Again, recruiting is huge. It's one of the hugest aspects of college football.
Yeah, it's not like the NFL where you can get away with slacking a little bit in free agency of the draft, because those are both important, but you can slack a little bit one or the other. College football, you've got to know how to recruit and you've got to
Yeah,
know how to do it right.
you gotta get that top talent. If you're not getting top talent, like even
You get
not
whatever
even
talent
top
you can,
talent,
really.
but you gotta get talent. It would be nice to get top talent, but you
You
just
got to
gotta
get
get
whatever's
talent. You gotta
available.
get talent that has promise, and you gotta be
You got to
able to
get
coach
whatever's
that talent.
available to you.
Yeah. Because I mean, you do have the 5 stars and the 4 stars and all that. Those are the ones that you run into target. But even 3 stars, you gotta get 3 stars, 2 stars. You gotta get it. If you see something, and if you're like, I can develop this guy, you gotta go get it. You gotta recruit him. Because I mean, there have been so many people like what JJ Watt was what a 2 star.
Yeah, I think
There have
so.
been plenty of guys that have been like 2, 1, or even 0 stars. But you gotta have the appeal, I guess, to get anybody, even lowly stars. If you don't have that appeal, they're gonna be like, "Listen, we know you're a big name school, but I'm gonna go to this school that appeals to me." Because
Yeah, I mean,
some people just want to have fun. If you're a big name school and if you have a defensive coordinator that sucks, they're not gonna want to play for you. They're gonna go for the listen. It may be UConn, but that school appeals to me versus Florida, who had Todd Grantham.
yeah, and at the end of the day, I mean, Adam Thielen was a walk on, and he turned into a blossoming receiver. So it doesn't matter where or what level you get
You
them
really had to
at.
say Blossom.
It doesn't matter what level you get them at. It's about what level you can bring them up to. I mean, like I said earlier, Ian Book was a 3 star. He ended up being a fourth round, or actually, yeah, about a fourth round draft pick. And Owusu Koromoa was a 3 star, turned into a first round draft pick. And he can play all over the field. And right now he's blossoming in Cleveland with Greg Newsome.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Syracuse has been pulling in bottom of the barrel New York talent and pulling anything from in the immediate area they can. I mean, they may have something here and there on their offense and defense. They've got a kicker in Schmidt who the dude is going to be a very good kicker coming into the draft next year. Either this year or next year. I don't know which one. But dude's barely missed in his tenure at Syracuse, and he wasn't a very high recruit either. So at the end of the day, it's not about where or what level they're at. It's about what level you bring them up to.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, yeah, it's definitely what level you can bring it up to. And also another thing is when recruits come to the game, that's going to be their one chance to experience the atmosphere, to see the team actually play. Like when Alabama came to the Swamp in week 3, yeah, we lost that, but we only lost by 2 points. What the hell happened for the rest of the season? I don't know. You ask me. But I mean, there were recruits that were invested because we were toe to toe with Alabama. We looked good. They experienced the atmosphere of the Swamp. But now at a 4-5 season, the Swamp is not going to be as electric. Against FSU, the Swamp probably won't be as electric. There won't be packed seats. So I mean, you got to appeal to the recruits 24/7. I don't want to say you got to baby them, but you got to kind of like when they come in for visits, you got to impress them. You got to promise them. And then when they come to watch the games, you better play that like the freaking natty is on the line. Because if a top recruit's coming in and that's also up to the fans. But like for the Swamp, when it's packed, it's rocking, it's shaking. The recruits are going, man, this is awesome. If you're 4-5, the recruits or the Swamp isn't packing because the team's just the fans are just tired of it. The recruits going, man, this sucks. I don't want to be here.
Yeah, and I mean, I look at Notre Dame in kind of the same way. Like, there's been down years where they're not really they'll struggle to get people in seats, and then there's this year where yes, the strength of schedule may be a little bit down compared to what it normally is, especially since a couple teams kind of fell off a cliff at some points. That atmosphere, and I was at that USC Notre Dame game, was electric. I mean, the student section's been packed almost every game. You got the students doing crowd push-ups. Um, there's so many different things going on at once. There's so many different traditions before, during, and after those games. There's a new light show. There was so many recruits visiting, whether that be unofficial or official.
Yeah.
You had Jerome Bettis at the game. You had Josh Adams at the game. You had multiple other former alumni. Joe Theismann did a book signing. I mean, they went all out for that rivalry game, and it showed.
That's what you got to do. You've got to make this. You got to make it such a because we've had Friday Night Lights, which has still worked. I mean, there's still like the number one receiver. It's either between us or Texas. And if you look at Anthony Richardson, which is the QB, if I'm Evan Stewart, I'm thinking, man, it'll be good. Plus, if I'm Evan Stewart, I can't really say Texas, really, when I'm looking at Florida, but that's also on the defensive side. But also, you look at the receivers that will be there for Florida, Evan Stewart automatically becomes your number one receiver right there, which is also kind of the appeal that the recruits got to look at. Where am I going to get the most playing time? You're going to get the most playing time in Florida. It just depends on whether or not you're going to be good. But we have Friday Night Lights where it's literally recruits go against each other. We've had 1v1 where our one of our recruiting QBs, Nick Evers, who's 3-star bumped up to a 4-star. Dude's amazing. Top 5 Q. I feel like he's going to be a top 5 QB in the 2023 recruiting class. He's throwing Evan Stewart, who's going up against 4-star, which I think this is the cornerback that decommitted. But he's going, and it's the recruits going up against one another. It's Friday Night Lights. It's happening all night. It's in the Swamp. I'm sure there's probably a barbecue or something. There's like a grill or whatever. So I mean, it's meant to be a fun time. You got to go all out with these recruits, man. You gotta like, say you're a parent and it's like your kid's first birthday. You're going all out for that, man. You're getting streamers, all that stuff. You got to go all out for these kids, man, to appeal. When it comes to recruiting, there's no such thing as trying too hard.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not trying to the best of your ability, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, there is no half-assing. It's kind of, if you got to put on a mask, you got to put on a mask. But even with Alabama, obviously, of course, people are Alabama. You know, they're always gonna win championships. They're always in talks, and Saban, and you know they got Saban and all that. But even when the recruits are coming there, they're having fun. They're doing photo shoots. They got, which every team does photo shoots, but like even the photo shoots, man, you got to make it look cool. Like with Florida, I know they've had some where even the dads like decked out in the gear or whatever, and they're always with, you know, the son and Dan Mullen and all that. But you gotta appeal to the kids because, like I mentioned earlier, I'm pretty sure Dan Mullen's even flown out to said recruit. You gotta go out of the way for every single recruit. Yeah. I mean, even with backdrops, even if you gotta add a freaking smoke machine for your shot, get a freaking smoke machine then. Who cares?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, the recruiting is most of your battles, and especially if you get a guy that's either in state or close to in state, that's their team, and that's someone they rep They like to rep. They know a lot, or they'll have connections or something, and they'll like to rep that team. You better go in because you got the advantage.
Yeah.
And when you've got an advantage to help bring in a kid, you take it.
Mm-hmm.
There's been certain recruits that it's been like, oh yeah, this kid's in state, blah blah blah, and they've been trying to. The team would try to go after him because he had a certain favoritism toward him. I was like, that's what you do. You got to go after him, whether you want to or not.
Mm-hmm.
Is that if you've got the advantage, you've got the advantage, and you may as well take it because there. It's better to recruit too many than too little.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Obviously, you would much rather. I know. There's you can only hand out a certain amount of so many scholarships, but I would rather be like, okay, I would rather come to the decision to where it's like, okay, I've got to narrow it down with my last scholarship. Who do I want to give it to rather than just, I still got some scholarships I can give out. I mean, it's just quite like the phrasing or the saying, happy wife is happy life. Happy recruits, that's it. Just make the recruits happy.
Happy recruits, good team.
Yeah, happy recruits and you get a good team.
That's what it comes down to because, I mean, and I've started to follow Syracuse a little bit more because they're a local team, and I've started to branch out a little bit, kind of watching around the college football because I mean Syracuse is so bad that I have to give them the courtesy to watch them, but I've been spectating in a little bit more of the game stat, and I've kind of been trying to look at Sean Tucker, great running back, true freshman, I think. But I mean, they're a team that's started to pick up over the last year. They're picking up steam. They're picking up momentum, and recruiting's part of that. I mean, last year they had a guy who spiked the ball on fourth down in a game that they should have won. After he got sacked on making a dumb play, they go back. Everyone's like, it was a shotgun formation. He was up under center.
Yeah, I know what play you're talking about.
He went back and spiked it, and everyone looked at him like, "Are you crazy?" Like, you go from that to now you're having a season where your quarterback is half your rushing game, and you're pushing for. You're already bowl eligible, and you're pushing to potentially. They almost knocked off Wake Forest, and they were in a very close game against Florida State. I mean, that team could be a lot better than it is, and the only reason their record is what it is right now is because they've had some close games. They're a lot better than they were a year ago. And
yeah, didn't Syracuse knock off Clemson?
No, I don't think so. I think they came close.
I thought Syracuse was the final nail in the coffin that got Clemson out of the top, either top 10 or out of the top ranking in general.
I think it was before that. I know they were out of the top 10 before that.
No, that was North Carolina.
Yeah, because Clemson played them after, I think it was 2 weeks after Syracuse played Albany, and I was at that Albany. Actually, no, it was more than 2 weeks, but I was at that Albany game. But that was...
Yeah, they did. October 15th, 17-14, Clemson.
Yeah, they always keep it close to Clemson. It doesn't matter what year or what team they have. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just Clemson always plays down to them or Syracuse plays up to Clemson, but it's one of the two.
Yeah. I don't know. Either way, it's going to be very interesting remainder of college season.
Yeah, especially with ranked killers like Purdue out there just waiting to knock somebody off. I mean, you got there's so many teams, right?
Notre Dame's praying they knock off Ohio State.
Yeah. There's so many teams right now that I'm like, well, that'll get votes for the top 25 here and there, and I'll go. You know, they're a very good team, but there's also a bunch of very good teams that are about their level that are in the top 25, and I'm like, I don't know who to pick.
But do they play Purdue, though?
Yeah. That is the true test. Purdue.
Purdue, not the hero we needed, but the hero we deserve.
Well, Yeah, and I do know that if Mullen calls any more bad games, if I see a dude with a hot dog costume in the Florida area, it's probably you.
No, yeah. Do you remember that one? And this will probably be the last comment that we make because we are wrapping up on the hour 15 mark. Do you remember that one GIF? I believe it was 2018. It was LSU Alabama. Alabama completely destroying that was the game where it was like they just shut out LSU. And the cameraman pans to the crowd, and there's this girl that's looking up at the camera, knew exactly where the camera was, knew exactly where to look, and she's just arms crossed, shaking her head. She became a meme. SEC Nation still uses this girl to this day. That's gonna be me. I'm gonna find the camera. I'm just gonna shake my head in disapproval. I almost wanted to. I didn't have any. This was before the Todd Grantham news, but I almost wanted to come on and just put a paper bag over my head and just draw eyes.
Oh, so you were gonna be a Browns fan for a day?
Yeah, pretty much. And then the Todd Grantham news came, and I was like, oh, there's hope.
The Browns fans wore the paper bag for like 20 years.
I thought that was 20. I thought Detroit started that.
Detroit did it at one point because they were doing that around like 2008. But
yeah, they were doing that when they went 0-16.
Yeah, but Cleveland's been doing it for a while because they suck too.
Yeah.
Hey, if you can't beat them, join them, and that's what Cleveland did.
Right, that's what I was about to do, and then I saw Grantham got fired.
Yeah, I think that saved you from drinking too much today, huh?
Well, let's calm down. Depression drinking, regular drinking now.
You got one near you, don't you?
No, I just got a Dr. Pepper.
Huh. Good. Good for you.
That's only because I ran out.
I was gonna say, I'm glad you're not drinking yourself to oblivion tonight.
I drank my last mic last night.
Yeah, I've been downing Cernex like no tomorrow because of this Philly game. No. At least our college teams aren't as disappointing sometimes as Philly. I'll say that.
Do you not remember my tweets last night?
That's true. Florida's kind of on Philly's level. At least
Florida's been on Philly's level for a hot minute since the last 4 games.
Can say Notre Dame's somewhat good right now.
Right?
I can be happy with that.
Right?
I don't know, but we are wrapping up. Do you have any last comments or anything?
No, not really. Just we'll be more prepared for the next episode. We'll actually have notes and topics and shit we want to talk about.
This was just more of a just to see how this would go and how to kind of plan out next week. So
yeah, this definitely would have been a lot more depressing if the Grantham news didn't break out. But
yeah, we'll come back next week with some notes and some topics
with actual games. Yeah, we did plan on talking about the games, but the Grantham news broke everything.
Yeah, the Grantham news derailed everything.
Yeah, everything was derailed. Yeah, we definitely did get off topic.
Yeah, you want to tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, y'all can find me on Twitter at Papa Fuchs, Fuchs spelled Fuchs. And y'all can find me on Twitch and YouTube at Papa Sora, name down there. Gonna try to get it set up to where this will be a double channel, to where you can go to both Jordy and mine to watch the Holy Gators. And if that happens, then I'll plan on doing more. Obviously, I'll plan on doing more stuff with my YouTube channel, opening that up. And Twitch is just kind of if I've got free time and still waiting on the art. My artist is freaking hilarious. But it's just like it. So yeah, stuff's definitely in progress. Definitely expecting to do some stuff, and yeah, that's about all I got.
Yeah, and in the future, within the next week or two, maybe we'll have our logo too.
Right?
Yeah, that I will say that is a great idea for a logo, though.
Yeah. My favorite part about that is I was telling Vic about it, and we'll go ahead if whoever's still chilling in the chat, we'll go ahead and tell you what the logo is. I was telling Vic about that. I was like, yeah, Jordy and I had about a minute conversation about what the logo was going to be. I basically told him, here was my idea. I was like, get a swamp, put a church in the middle of said swamp, have a gator. The gator's wearing the hat, the orb, and carrying the cross. And Jordy just went, yep, that's a great thumbnail.
Yep.
And I was like, yep.
I love it. It was great.
I was like, that didn't take very long.
Hey, it's a great idea. It didn't need very much
I have
convincing.
those sometimes.
Hey, you've got more than Dan Mullen.
Right?
Hey, at least you don't recruit in the off season only.
Yeah.
But anyways, that will wrap this up.
I just know that's not true because, again, during Friday Night Lights, we've been recruiting, so I don't know why he said that.
That is it.
But again, Mullen's definitely on the hot seat. If he's not fired this offseason,
He's on the hot seat.
if he's not fired this offseason, then he's got one more year to prove it.
Yeah. But that would be it from me, Papa Sora. Thank you for watching, whether that be for a second, a minute, an hour. It means a lot. Thanks, Big Play Side, for being in the chat. I know we really didn't talk about your messages, but thanks to you, anyone else who came through. I know Vic said he was going to watch.
All right, Vic, are you in here? Speak now or hold your peace.
Thanks, everyone, for coming in. Thanks again, Vic, for the name idea. And we're out of here.
Yeah. Peace.